breath. First star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might have the wish I wish tonight.
I wish for good grades.
I wish I was better at relationships.
I wish I was an artist.
I wish I had a better relationship with my wife.
I wish for a life full of happiness.
I wish I may, I wish I might have the wish I wish tonight.
Hello, welcome to Beyond Wishful Thinking and your host, Sherry Seymour. Tomorrow is back to school. Today's the long weekend in Ontario anyway, and tomorrow starts the beginning of back to school. What does that mean? So for people who don't have children, it means the roads are going to be congested. I know when I lived in the city, it was lovely to travel back and forth to work during the summer because there absolutely was less traffic. For people out where school buses are, it's being aware that leave a little bit of extra time because you're going to get behind a school bus possibly tomorrow morning. For people with children who struggle, it could feel anxious. It could feel hopeful, an opportunity for your child to develop more, but maybe feeling a bit like, what's it going to look like? And are the things that we've put in place going to work the way we hope? For people who just work and have to take all of that time to schedule their summer, it could feel like less work for their children to go back to school. And so there's just so many things to consider. And I wanted to just kind of speak about some of those things. For me as a parent, I thought school was going to be so much fun, and I found it not everything I'd hoped it would be. I was fortunate to have 3 children who had higher than average intellect, and I discovered to my dismay that the school system is created mostly for the average. And so people below and above, it's a special, unique time to figure out how to keep your child engaged. I chose to be a stay-at-home mom. That doesn't mean I didn't work. It just means that I worked crazy hours and different types of gigs to be able to help with the finances of our household. And so that also meant then that summertime we were around. We didn't travel a lot because we didn't have the extra, and we didn't have a cottage or things that take people away from their home environment. And so summer was a time where we just got to cocoon. Actually, all of the holidays, many of them, the night before school would start, I would snuggle into my husband and say, I hate these days when they have to go back. I saw it as a marching of time, a marking of time marching, and that it was coming to an end every year that I would have my children at home with me. I still have 3 adult children in my home. I have one son who's married. I have a son and a daughter. My daughter has her last year of post-secondary. I have a foster son who just finished his post-secondary, and I have an adult son who is renting our basement apartment. So it isn't what I wondered if it might be, and it's enjoyable, but it is still a tough, exciting, many other adjectives day. This day back to school. I think something I've always been fascinated by is how one minute we do one thing and the very next minute we're doing something else. So for example, it's summer, we're swimming, we're at the cottage, we're on a trip. Maybe you're flying home from a trip and you're going to start school a day late. Whatever your circumstance, maybe you have custodial sharing and your child is traveling home from the other parent or from your parents or your spouse's parents. And so there's just a lot going on, and then boom, the next day it's what it was. It's back to school. It's whatever it is we do. I think about that when we get married, when we have a new job. One day we're doing this, the next day we're doing that. And I wonder if we stay in the present enough to feel and to appreciate and to enjoy the beginnings and the endings of things. So some of the things that came to my mind around school starting is, first of all, the media around it, because of course this is a chance for retail to make a little bit of money. We need to buy all of our supplies. We need to have everything sort of set up, ready to go. And I was thinking about our experience, we didn't do that. I felt that the times that I did think, oh, yeah, let's go buy new outfits, the weather hadn't changed and the outfit was too hot. And if they wanted to wear it, you kind of put them in a situation of being in clothing that didn't work. And so we switched quite quickly to they got a t-shirt and that felt good, but it wasn't something that would end up causing more grief. We didn't buy school supplies right out of the gate because that allowed them to be in school, find out what it was they needed. Maybe they'd see something someone else had that they might like, and it's a way we can allow that sense of belonging, to have something similar to someone else. And so it was really easy to go back to school. We just treated it like another day. We talked about it a little bit. We didn't go to bed early. We didn't do anything. We didn't affect our schedule. We allowed the schedule to affect us. So, for example, they just went to bed at whatever time they normally were going to bed. And by the second or third day, they were tired enough to go back to the bedtime they needed to get up. We were bused, so the kids were up at 6:30 to be on the bus by 10 to 8. And so it was early mornings, and we adjusted to that by the need that they finally required to have that sleep. So I was thinking about just the wording and the thinking around back to school. So I was thinking freedom and lack of freedom. For some kids, it's freedom because summer was very scheduled because their parents do work. Sometimes, remember, I mentioned the light traffic, parents took holidays in the summer. And so there wasn't a sense of having a different schedule for summer. They were with parents, but some people don't have that luxury. And so summer for their kids was maybe spending time with grandparents or in summer camps or with an older sibling looking after them, aunt or uncle, those kinds of scenarios. And for kids who have shared custody with parents or grandparents, then that was time to connect with those other parts of their family. And that can be good and that can be bad. It can also be that there's separation. So there's an exciting about belonging to school. I'm in a different grade now. I'm going to have all these friends. But there's the separation of whatever it was that you did through the summer that was exhilarating or fun, or maybe you have a relaxing summer with your kids and now all of a sudden the lack of free time will be a challenge for them. And so it's a complete switch. And I just wanted to kind of invite you to allow your feelings, allow their feelings. Sometimes as parents, it can feel so empty when we drop them off, wherever it is we drop them. Sometimes it can be like a release because, okay, now I can get to all those things that I have been saying once summer's over, I can do. Be it attend your job differently, accept more responsibility at your job, or maybe things around the home or within the family. The other thing I was thinking about is scheduling and how everybody responds differently to that. And so, and food around school, like maybe your child doesn't eat breakfast, so does your school have a program for that? Because ours being a country school with lots of bused kids, we had a program that we put in place so that kids that were up so early could have something else at school. I know parents stress so much about lunches, and it's such a drain to try and be creative and healthy and hope they'll eat it and they don't. And I finally came to a realization that food in our body gives us nutrition, but there is a portion of it that gets wasted uh, via our bowels or. And so if they're not eating their lunch, it's going to get wasted that way. And so just see that part as the waste that happens, and they just don't get the nutrient. And you can feed them a really good after school snack and they'll get it then. I think it's just one less stress for you and your child to worry about. You just remove that entirely. It's hard to do because we are caregivers, but I think that's something I wanted to offer as an opportunity for you to just grow a little bit and accept that they will eat when they're hungry. And you are not a bad parent if there's just too much going on at lunch for them to want to eat. I was thinking too about how we relate to adults. Some kids are shy, some kids are rambunctious. Maybe your child is the kind of child that it's going to take a while to warm up and to accept that this person will guide them for the year. Some schools too, like you see multiple adults, and that could be challenging for a child. I know one of our children, they really found the first 2 weeks of school difficult because it was such a heavy review period, and he often got in trouble. And when we realized that, we just started packing extra things that he had permission to work at his desk that he enjoyed. And so then he wasn't so out of sorts with the boredom of school. Other children, it can be anxious because maybe they feel like they should have remembered and they're not. And so we, as their guardians, we need to just understand, what would we be like when we would assess a new situation in our lives. So if you were to start a new job and you had a long drive and you didn't know the area and you had a lot going on that evening, you would find ways to make it easier for yourself. You would maybe pack or not pack a lunch. You'd buy your lunch and you wouldn't make big plans for that evening. And so these are things we can afford our children. One of the things that we adopted was that we would pick our children up at lunch, and we would hear about that part of their day. Because if there was a big disappointment, it's a long time to hold on to it. And if they felt like there was something that was their link or their anchor, then it wasn't so bad. They went to school on the bus and they came home on the bus, but they got to touch base with us. And then when they got home, just go outside and play. It's just another summer day. If they want to share, great. If they don't, that's fine. We'll figure it out as we go. The other thing I think that's really interesting to consider is, if it's a new school, maybe don't compare. Maybe find factual things to discuss. Do they have a lunchroom? Is it a different color? What is the front hall like if you've not been? Or what did you notice that was different? Not what did you like, what do you miss, but just kind of a factual representation of what's different. And then they don't have to think, oh, well, they're concerned about that. That's why they asked the question. So now I should be concerned. And it might just make everything that feels so different just something simple like information. So as you embark on this first new day of this year, you might be sending kids to post-secondary, stressing about, like myself, whether they're going to get up on time, whether they're going to have all the things they need, if they're going to feel overwhelmed going from, the country to the city, whatever the reasons are. It might be a brand new start, a child starting kindergarten. And I remember when I had some concerns, I wrote a letter to the teacher and I left that with her. And that made me feel better about what I could tell her about my child. I think even changing from junior to senior can be a challenge. So it doesn't matter where you're at. And maybe even for yourself, maybe this is a time where it's like a new beginning for you, an opportunity that you're going to turn over a new leaf or a different leaf and start to try something. And so welcome to fall, welcome to back to school, welcome to new beginnings without any predetermination other than it's another day and this is what we're doing. Thanks so much for listening. Please share your comments, explain or share what it was like for you. And if you have questions about parts that you find difficult, leave them and we could discuss that too. Thanks so much. For more Beyond Wishful Thinking, make sure to subscribe for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now.